And joining me now to have that conversation, we have Samuel K. Shanju, who's a program assistant, Ecumenical Pharmaceutical Network. Good morning and thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
We also have Dr. John Kiru, who's a senior researcher at KEMRI. Good morning and thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Now, just give me a good analysis of how badly we're doing in terms of having antibiotics pumped into animals that we eat. Let me start with you, Dr.
As you have actually seen on the clip, it's a real problem because a lot of farmers are using these antibiotics, and actually some of them don't even know the antibiotics because they are told these are actually growth enhancers, and they want their chicken or their livestock to grow faster, to gain weight, and so on. So actually, they are using these antibiotics. Unfortunately, some of the antibiotics used in animals are also used in humans. Therefore, if some of these bacteria or germs develop resistance in animals, that can actually come to human beings.
Okay, Samuel, why is it necessary for farmers and people rearing livestock to use antibiotics on them?
You see, currently, our farmers are not able to keep very hygienic standards in the rearing of the chicken. That means that they will prefer to use antibiotic, which is the easier route to keep off any kind of infection that may come to their chicken or to their farm animals. So it's kind of they're choosing the easier route rather than keeping hygiene standards into their farms, which brings a problem into this because the residues, when the chicken take antibiotics, eventually they are not excreted from the chicken bodies. Eventually, when we take the chicken, we will take the antibiotics, but at very suboptimal levels, which means we are exposing the microbes or bacteria within our bodies to very non-therapeutic kind of standards, which means that they will change their formation, their DNA, and try to fight back for these infections. Okay,
so is that a legal thing that they're doing when they pump all those antibiotics into the animals?
Yeah, well, this is no kind of a standard that is laid out. That's why the World Health Organization is challenging countries to come up with national action plans which will regulate how these antibiotics can be used. And so you cannot convict anyone of using antibiotics because they are available, they are cheap to buy, and so you cannot really convict anyone to using antibiotics.
So it would be safe to say that it is actually legal. They're not breaking the law by doing that.
Yeah, and we cannot say that they are breaking the law because they will say that they are protecting their chicken from getting infections, and
I guess optimizing on getting them healthy and selling them at a good time.
Yeah. If you could view it in that kind of view, then we could make policies that can help us make this an illegal thing, because we are exposing our population to this resistance of antibiotics.
Okay. Now, Dr. John Kiru, maybe before we go to a video that gives us some information on what we're staring at here, are there alternatives?
Unfortunately, for now, as far as infections are concerned, our best option are antibiotics. The other option is, of course, vaccines. But, of course, vaccines have a problem because we don't have a lot of vaccines. Some of the vaccines are not very good for adults, maybe for children. That's why we immunize our children. And the other challenge is that not all pathogens, we don't have vaccines for all pathogens.
Okay, now hold that thought, because I want us to just have an idea of exactly what we're talking about. And here's a video that gives us a bit more information of the conversation that we're having.
Antibiotics have saved millions of lives around the world, and the average life expectancy has increased considerably. But the wealth of these miracle drugs is not only a success story. The bacteria have fought back, and today we see an alarming trend. The number of multi-drug resistant bacteria has grown dramatically over the last decades, resulting in thousands of deaths due to infections that cannot be cured. What happened? The massive use of antibiotics has stimulated bacteria to develop resistance mechanisms in order to survive. For many years, we did not know enough to take this global threat seriously. And although awareness and involvement has increased, much damage has already been done. Antibiotics are often prescribed unnecessarily for infections that are likely to go away without treatment. In many countries, antibiotics are also sold over the counter without a prescription from the doctor. At the same time, in many low-income countries, lack of access to antibiotics actually causes more deaths than resistance. Multi-drug resistant bacteria spread within hospitals as a result of poor infection control, and also between people in the community. Bacteria know no boundaries, and extensive international travel and trade help resistance to spread from continent to continent. Antibiotic resistance does not only affect humans, but also the health of animals and the environment. It is all connected. The unpleasant truth is that scientists have not come up with a new class of antibiotics since 1987, and we are about to enter a new era where many commonly used antibiotics have lost their effects. Modern medicine relies on the availability of effective antibiotics. Without them, it would be too risky to perform organ transplants, cancer chemotherapy, or even common surgical procedures such as hip replacements. Care of preterm babies would also be at higher risk for untreatable infections. Resistance is costly, both for the individual and for society. By 2050, the number of deaths due to antibiotic resistance could reach 10 million per year, and thus exceed the number of people who annually die from cancer today. Antibiotic resistance has been considered as dangerous and deadly as terrorism and global warming. Are we heading towards a post-antibiotic era? We cannot reverse this frightening trend, but we can slow it down. And all of us need to change our behavior to once again gain the upper hand in the fight against antibiotic-resistant bacteria.
And that video is courtesy of Ecumenical Pharmaceutical Network. Samuel, some very grim statistics there, and seeing that it's even been compared to chemical warfare. I mean, that's quite drastic. Is this a uniquely Kenyan problem?
No. We cannot say that this is unique to Kenya only, because world over, everybody is running to get antibiotics to take care of their ailments. And we can see that the resistance, if you look at data or statistics all over the world, it is showing that resistance is going up, is going up, is going up. Well, we can say that in the developing countries, they have a step ahead because they have already established some kind of antibiotic policies that will guide them, so that you cannot just walk into any pharmacy and get antibiotics, which is very different from here in Kenya. So I will not say that this is unique to Kenya.
Do we have countries that have regulated the antibiotics even for the use on animals?
Yeah, I'm not aware of that because I've not really ventured into the animal health issues, but I know of countries here in Africa which are headed that way. Kenya is also headed that way because the World Health Organization has set a target of May 2017 and June 2017 for every country to come up with a national action plan to be able to curb this. And this should be comprehensive. It should cover both animals, the environment, and even humans, because it's a combined kind of relationship where it's called a One Health approach.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dr. Kiru, given that this is actually people's livelihood, there are people who are making money out of selling these animals for food. It's not about to change. Is it reversible? Is there something that we can do to stop this, to avert it fast and reverse?
I think we can still, and we still have time to make some take some drastic steps. But of course, the first one would be the rational use of antibiotics. You use it properly. Once you're given a dosage, follow it to the end. Because a lot of people actually use the antibiotics and immediately they start feeling okay, they stop using.
And maybe explain to us why it's important for somebody to finish the dosage. Because every time a doctor gives you antibiotics, they do give you that additional information that you must take it to the end. Okay,
I want you to assume that you have 100 bacteria that are causing your infection. And out of that, 30 of them are resistant, but 70 of them are not resistant. So what happens? The reason why the doctor tells you take this medicine after 6 hours and then after another 6 hours is because he expects the antibiotic to decimate these pathogens or these germs slowly towards the end of your dose. Now the problem is, by the 5th day, you may be feeling far much better. But remember what is remaining? It is actually the resistant strains. So the moment you stop using these antibiotics on the 5th day, what you have actually done, you have let the resistant population to thrive. If they overtake and they become responsible for your infection, then the antibiotic that you have just used, you cannot use it in future. So, in fact, that resistant also can be passed to another bacteria, and you can also pass that strain to a child or to a relative or to a colleague at work. Therefore, it's very, very important that once you get the antibiotic, first of all, get a prescription, listen to the doctor. Does he tell you not to take this antibiotic maybe with alcohol? Because some of the chemicals like alcohol deactivate antibiotics. Does he tell you to take it after or before meal? These are very, very important things to look at and follow. But most importantly, it might be very, very important that as much as we are thinking about antibiotics, resistance, let's also think, why are we using antibiotics? We are using antibiotics because we are getting sick more often. Why are we getting sick more often? Most of the infections are actually waterborne, foodborne. So if we can improve hygiene, if we can improve sanitation, if we can improve access to clean water, we are likely to cut down on these infections, therefore reducing the volumes and the rate of antibiotic use.
Okay, Samuel, I do know that a number of people actually self-medicate. What would your advice to them be, especially when it comes to antibiotics?
Yeah, I will advise them to find out what their ailment is. And this you cannot find by trying to find out what is wrong. There's a reason why doctors go to school for 7 years just to find out what's wrong with your body.
And symptoms are not enough for me to know what I'm suffering from?
Not really, because symptoms will cut across so many diseases, and we need to kind of single them out and use some diagnostic measures to find out what you are ailing at. And the problem with this kind of self-medication, or just walking into any pharmacy and getting an antibiotic, is that they will give you an antibiotic that is very broad. It is not specific to a certain microorganisms. So the moment all these bacteria are exposed, they kind of develop a way of fighting back, and we create an opportunity for them to be resistant. So if we are able to zero in on what is ailing you and give you a medicine that is specific to that, we're able to clear out all these microbes, and we don't give them a chance for them to mutate and change to develop resistance.
Okay, Dr. Kiru, should we stop eating chicken?
I don't think so. What we need to do is to enforce policies. In fact, a lot of countries do actually have policies of antibiotic use, but the problem is the enforcement of that policy and also the regulation, because this is both a medical and a legal issue. So the Pharmacy and Poisons Board will tell you don't sell the antibiotics over the counter, but you need a policeman to arrest somebody who is breaking the law. And that is where the complication is. Therefore, if we can curb antibiotic use both in human beings and also in animals, and we enforce the regulations, we don't have to worry about what we are eating. But as for now, the truth is, a lot of the foods that we are actually using or eating, they are raised with antibiotics.
With antibiotics. Final question, does that come under GMO? Or that's a totally different?
No, that's a different.
This is purely just antibiotics?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Dr. John Kiru, is a senior researcher at KEMRI, and Samuel K. Shanju, who is a program assistant, Ecumenical Pharmaceutical Network.